Welcome all to our first episode of ASMG Center Circle. And in this episode, we're going to go over the first semifinal, the first two semifinals from the Regional Cup in the UPSL in Georgia. And we have with us today Drew Dickinson, who actually called the game. Drew, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Dre. How are you doing, bud?
Just fine, just fine. We just got through with the Regional Cup. Two fantastic setups that we had there. LGSA going up against Club the Strongest in a much anticipated game. But we also had the defending champions, Atlanta Rovers FC, going up against a non-UPSL team, Cochos FC. They're champions in the Cobb Adult League. Kind of unusual way that those games turned out. Let me get your impressions of those games, if I could.
Well, the first one, let's just start with what we kicked the day off with. LGSA Laminio taking on Club the Strongest Atlanta. Club the Strongest coming off of that draw with Atlanta Rovers FC to end the regular, group play, if you will. I was expecting more. I'll be completely honest with you. I was expecting a little bit more from them. And honestly, I was expecting more from LGSA. Both teams started out, we even said it in the broadcast, the first half completely flat the first half from both teams. LGSA, they capitalized, Club the Strongest were able to capitalize off a mistake and get the only goal. Wasn't pretty, but it still, they still advanced to the final. And we'll go a little bit further into it as this podcast, as this goes on a little bit more, Center Circle, goes on a little bit more today. But the midfield and the center forwards, the space in between the 6 and the 8 for Club the Strongest, and I don't even know if they were playing in number 10, but we'll get into that. It was just a really weird situation. And LGSA, Andre, they're just lacking that last little it factor.
Yeah.
So I'm anxious to see what they do before the regular season starts to catapult them, because they just didn't look like themselves. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. And in fact, I was as we were going up through the broadcast, we did mention how dull and dry that first half started out. And I was wondering, do you think it's because there's a certain type of nervousness that goes on with a cup competition like this, but also it's also a preview to the season. It's something that's used to vet newer players, newer techniques, and things of that nature. Do you think all of that had something to do with the way that the game was played?
Well, for Club the Strongest, I 100% think that had a lot to do with it. And again, I know we keep beating a dead horse and we say we mentioned this in the broadcast, but this is what we do, and this is why we're here. But we mentioned in the broadcast that it was kind of shocking that Coach Footsop put out the lineup that he did, because, to me, that was a lineup that should have been week 1, week 2. You don't start, players who really haven't played much in the Regional Cup in a semifinal matchup. But, whether or not we agreed or disagreed with it, they came out with the win.
Right.
And
they got the job done in the end, regardless of how things started out.
Exactly.
And on the flip side of that, LGSA that you mentioned before, there's something missing there.
Yeah,
They
there
look
was.
very uncharacteristic in their approach to the game and their behavior in the game. And I think we'll see as we get into these goals here in just a moment. The look and feel of what was going on in defense was just really, really awful, I think.
For LGSA?
For LGSA.
Yeah, and again, it's so uncharacteristic about that team, especially that back three led by Gerson Ayala. Eric Rodriguez, unfortunately, was the one who had the mistake that pretty much cost them the Regional Cup, to put it bluntly. And it's just something that you don't see with that team. We mentioned it every time you watch them play, with the exception of this past week. They build from the back better than any team in the conference. They start from the back. They want to build from the back. And, whether it's, missing Gio Rios or Kevin Lopez being on the bench, who was their leading goal scorer in the fall season in the UPSL Georgia Premier Division, I don't really think he got many minutes in this Regional Cup, if he was there at all. So to me, with LGSA, it's something that can easily be cleaned up. I have no worries about their back line, none whatsoever. Their midfield is fantastic. Castrejón, Aaron Diaz, just fantastic. But they need support. They need support on the wings, and they need a goal scorer, Andre. Plain and simple for LGSA. They need a goal scorer. The game isn't won in the midfield. The game is won when the ball's put in the back of the net.
Well, that's the one thing with LGSA. They have a very experienced coaching staff, and I'm sure that they're going to look at the film and see what is missing and make those changes. And they're going to be a contender in the season coming up.
100%.
And so I'm sure Coach Jose is not very happy with the way things turned out for the cup competition, for the results for them, but they're not going to be downhearted. They've had a lot of success. They won the regional cup 2 cups ago. They were defending champions of the league or the playoffs, and got to the nationals before, and got all the way to Beeman.
And let's be honest, it's a game that they should have won too.
Yes, all the way to penalties. Yeah.
And that LGSA team is a team that I expect to see March 18th.
Yeah, and they'll have some regulars back. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's being one of the perennial powerhouses. If you want to stay at the top, you got to adapt. You got to bring in young. You got to bring in fresh players. So again, we know what Rovers. We know what to expect with Club the Strongest. I'm really excited to see what form of offensive attack, what form of threat they bring starting March 18th, because we just agreed that there really wasn't much. Although I think they scored 11 goals, Dre. They scored 11 goals in the the first 3 weeks of the regional cup. They scored 11 goals. Right. Imagine if they had a true number 9.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and it's at the group stages, it was incredible the way they did. And like I say, it was uncharacteristic for all of these teams, I think, in the semifinals. But I think there are certain factors that go into that. But let's go ahead and get into the goals here for the LGSA Club the Strongest game. And I'll just we'll get it going here. I'll let you kind of narrate what you see from this the first goal here, which was really, really sloppy from LGSA's point of view.
Yeah, it was a long ball over the back line. Eric Rodriguez had two opportunities. One to play it back to the goalkeeper. One he could have played it out wide himself, but just an uncharacteristic mistake from him. As you see right here, he's unsure of what to do. Trap it, play it back to the goalkeeper, and that allowed Kai Bennett to sneak in right behind him, pick up the pieces, and send Club the Strongest through to the final, Andre.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, and again, one of the things that I noticed about that back line for and we'll see it in the other goal as well, a lot of indecision, lack of concentration, and it was just really strange to see that happen in that manner. So it'll be interesting to see if how they correct that in the season coming up, which I'm sure they will. But let's get into the second goal here.
The second goal, Dre, I really liked it. It was a team goal. Nice passing in the midfield. Norman Carmona was able to check in the second half, get some minutes. But again, another silly mistake from a person or a player on the LGSA squad in Carlos Castrejón that they don't usually make. And a team like LGSA, you work the kinks out in the regional cup, better beware come March 18th for the rest of the league. But no, you see Norman Carmona capitalize off that mistake. He's going to bring it out wide to the right. And another second half substitution, and a player to keep an eye on for the season, a newcomer to Club the Strongest, Roland Zabo. Roland Zabo wide open at the back post to pick up the pieces. Number 9 came in off the bench in the second half, and that one for sure sends LGSA into the regional cup final.
Yeah, and again, from LGSA's point of view, and this was a sort of a gift, so to speak, to Club the Strongest, so Los Tigres. The actions of the back line, again, very indecisive. They were running backwards, but no one was marking up the free players. And so you have to be able to put pressure on those guys that are coming up, and also mark those ones who are unmarked as they're coming in, because that rebound, as you see, was able to be slotted in very easily and without a challenge. So again, uncharacteristic of LGSA, but Club the Strongest took advantage of that.
Real quick, do you think the fact that they're playing a back 3 with some players who are getting a little bit up there in age, do you think that may have some sort of advantage to the other team? Because you see all game, that back 3 was all alone. There was not very much transition, except for that last one when Castrejón, who is a number 8 or number 10 for LGSA, he's the one who made that mistake. Would that have been something that you see them make come March? A team like LGSA, like I said, they start making these mistakes now. That's good for them, bad for everybody else.
Right, exactly. I don't expect that is a problem for them structurally. I mean, the back three with the experience that they have, they should do better. I
Yeah.
think it's a mental lapse, and
Yep.
it might have to do with maybe not understanding or uh, having the urgency in the sense that even though it's a semifinal, it is a preseason friendly semifinal. And
Exactly.
they are bringing a lot of new faces, people playing kind of out of position as well. But I think that overall they should do better. And
No,
I don't think,
I totally agree.
yeah,
I
I don't think
totally
it's an
agree.
issue with the formation or maybe the link up that just wasn't there. But you're right, they were isolated a lot. I'm not sure how much the communication was back there in that back line because
And
that
here's
they seem to
here's
be lost, and
exactly.
it's really weird to see. I've never seen them with that type of reaction to the game.
Well, another thing that we're talking about, the LGSA versus Club the Strongest first semifinal matchup of the past weekend. Club the Strongest. I I wonder if the amount. I mean, Andre Mauricio Cross, who checked in the Rovers game in the third week of Regional Cup, checked in, made his presence known immediately, scored the late equalizer. I was expecting them to feed off of that momentum. I was expecting Cross to play either the number 6 or the number 8 and feed. Be the I said he reminds me of Weston McKinney, but they need him to be more of a Casemiro type. And what he was more of just a 6 who just sat back. He was sat next to Sebastian Sandoval or a couple yards away from him the entire game. And Larry and I mentioned in the broadcast that there was 20 to 25 yards from the offensive attack split between the defensive midfielders and the back line of Club the Strongest. And you wonder if they go back and watch the film and see the amount of space in that midfield, was that an advantage to them because of how much it was allowing LGSA to push up?
Yeah.
Or was that just a lapse of mentality of them getting scared and wanting to hold on to that lead, parking
Well,
the bus, if you will? I'm really interested to see if they continue that in the final this Sunday against Rovers.
Well, yeah. I mean, with from the Club the Strongest point of view with Cross, we have to remember where he's coming from too. He's new with Club the Strongest,
Yep.
but he's coming from Seas Jamaica. You know, and that's a different style of play and a different mentality. And so there's got to be that adjustment and that chemistry that has to develop, but it's not there yet. And I'm not sure the coaching staff, again, just like we said with LGSA, Coach Sandoval for Club the Strongest, they're going to correct that. They're going to look
Oh
at
yeah.
the film. They're going to put him in the right place because he's out of place right now. But he's used to playing a different way, and now he's got different talent around him,
Yep.
and he needs to be used in a more productive manner. And I think that they're just going to have to learn how to do that. That's why the regional cup has been great for them because now they can correct it before the season starts and be able to hit the ground running. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops in the team.
No, absolutely. And you can also chalk it up to inexperience of playing together, playing as a unit, and that's going to get better with training. Lots of new faces. And I told you before this whole entire regional cup started, I told you what the final was going to be, and that's what the final is. And I told you to watch out for Club the Strongest. Once they start to gel, there's a lot of new faces. I just mentioned Sabo, Maiwaned Siraj, lots of college experience, high school experience, and of course, Maurizio Cross coming in from Seas United, as you mentioned. He's going to be the anchor. He's going to be the engine that could, the Tyler Adams, the Weston McKinney type of player that they need, the physicality. He's got a big body. He's not afraid to challenge. Once they start to gel and once they start to click, just like Atlanta Rovers FC, man, it's Dre. I'm telling you, this season in the UPSL Georgia Premier Division is going to be one of the best divisions in the country again.
I think so from top to bottom. I don't see any weaknesses. Even with the new teams coming in, they're very organized and very professional. But getting back to Cross, I think that he has the potential to be a leader on that
Yes.
team. And if he develops the way I think he will, like you said with Rovers the last season and the way that they really made that jump in quality, I think Club the Strongest could be one of those contenders that maybe a lot of people don't put a lot of faith in. And it's interesting that, with you talking with Larry Weaver in the broadcast over the weekend, we talked about how Club the Strongest was a Jekyll and Hyde club. And it did not have to do with results, but it has to do with the manner of the play that they have.
Yes.
Are they mentally tough?
Yes.
Exactly. What happens when they go down? Do they fight to come back? Because we saw instances last season where they really collapsed when they were down a little bit. We haven't seen that so far in the regional cup to this degree. They look very strong, and they look more determined when they go down. So that'll be interesting to see if they can translate that into the regular season.
Well, to piggyback off your point, is they've already shown that the tenacity and the mentality that they carried from last season is not what they brought into this regional cup. Mauricio Cross checked in with 20 minutes to go in the week 3 matchup, down 1 against Rovers. And Dre, the entire mentality of the team completely changed. They said, they screamed out loud, "Let's go for it," and they did. They did. And me and Steven talked about it. That was a team that didn't exemplify any of that in the latter part of the season, and that's what cost them a playoff spot. If they show the fight and the tenacity that they showed down against Rovers throughout the regular season coming in March, or 3 weeks, the people back home in La Paz, Bolivia, they're going to be very, very happy, because right now, Club the Strongest, they sit at the top of the league in the Bolivian Premier Division. So they want to see their sister team at the top of the league as well.
And
it can happen.
That's a certain type of pressure too, because they know that the sister team is watching.
Yep.
And they expect a certain quality of play, even from Atlanta.
I think they're going to get it. I think once they gel and once they train, if they watch film and they go back and dissect and analyze how they played in the regional cup and pick up a little bit of the pieces, clean up a little bit of the, fundamentals, just a little fundamentals and lots of training, which I'm sure they do, it's going to help. And I tell you what, Jojo Sandoval back between the pipes completely changed the mentality of defense as well. They were much more confident. Nothing against Jason Chavez, because look, I mean, he got into the semifinal. Let's be real.
Right.
But Jojo coming back and exemplifying his confidence in between those goal pipes, it's something really, really promising for CTS.
Yeah. Chavez getting the critical minutes is going to be very important for his backup role in the season, because with Jojo, you did see a very much improved command of the area with him back there between the sticks. And so it'll be interesting to see. They're going to be solid in the back with him, especially in goal, but also with Cross up front. I mean, they've just really stepped it up a bit. So I don't know, man.
Remember, Kush Clark is injured.
That's right. I forgot about that. We didn't mention him. Yeah.
Yannick Kra, another crucial member of the midfield and a great wide player. He is unable to figure out scheduling. So once Kush is healthy and Yannick can come back and gel with this new team, my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, the
sky's the limit.
The game coming up on Sunday is going to be like a preview of really the main matchup that's going to be in the season. So I'm looking forward to that. But let's get to that. We got the goals from the other semifinal there, Rovers, and Cochos FC. Now, Cochos is a non-UPSL team, the only non-UPSL team in the regional cup. But they are Cobb Adult champions, good quality team. But they were always going to be an underdog in this game. So let's get into it. It was a comprehensive win by the defending champions. But let's start with that corner kick, if you would.
Yeah. All right. First goal. Ball's going to be played from the left side of the 18 from Josh Francombe, who found an cutting in Chris Derone Aguero is what they call him. And if you look at it in slow-mo, the run from Derone, sneaking in behind the defense, perfect header, perfect ball from Josh Francombe. And speaking of Josh Francombe, what a player. We'll get into him as we talk a little bit more about this Rovers Cochos game. But that goal right there just solidified, Andre.
Well, and let's pause it right there. What about the Cochos back line there with that cross coming in? I guess they were trying to catch him on the offside trap, but no one reacted.
Nobody did, and you just kind of chalk that up to a little lack of communication. They immediately ran up, and what they did is they started ball watching.
Yes.
You
Yes.
start ball watching, and you take your eyes off the men, and you get hats off to Daron. As you see here, he just sneaks right through the back, unmarked the entire way. It's just a phenomenal goal. And again, you look at the back post here. Somebody was there for Rovers to pick up the trash too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they had three players there ready to to roll. And then short time later, we had the free kick, indirect free kick.
Now this one,
After I think that was after the goalkeeper picked up a back pass, I believe.
correct. Goalkeeper handled the ball inside the box from a back pass, which resulted in an indirect free kick. As you see, the referee with his left hand up. Indirect free kick means one person has to touch the ball before the kicker can place the ball on the goal.
Right. And what about that execution and that?
The execution was just phenomenal. As you see, Sebastian Montero lays it off here for Josh Francombe, who's already got an assist, and he just slots it in that back post. And talk about awareness. A sense of awareness. As you see the look at the wall. There's about 2 yards in between the wall, and he pushes it to the right side of the wall. The wall pressures the kick right after the first ball was touched, which is live. You can do that. But then he jumps in the air and completely takes himself out of the play. Growing up, my dad used to call that a sky dancer.
And it made a difference here too.
It did.
He slotted it just where it needed to go.
It did. And Josh Francombe got a goal to add on to an assist that he already had in the night, Dre.
All right. And then, of course, in the second half, I believe, is it the second half that we got the third goal?
Yep, third goal.
Coming up. And it's interesting on this one. I wanted to get your impression on this because you see Rover, this is the danger that Rovers has for their opponents, turning defense quickly into offense and catching, in this case, Coach O's way upfield and unprepared for this break that they had.
Yeah, it was a nice flick in the middle of the field by Jair Lopez. Found an on-running Nzario Mbomio at the back post who tried to dump it over the goalkeeper who came off his line. Goalkeeper was lucky to get a hand on it. As you see right here, is driving in the back line, beats the sweeper. Goalkeeper comes out, gets some palms on it, but to pick up the trash right at the top of the 18. He did his best to miss it, did Jimmy Lee Noel, but he hits off the crossbar and bounces into the back of the net. And again, that's just awareness. That's just a team play, and that's a team who has been playing together for a long time. They know where each other is. They know how to find each other's backs. And it was just great to see. And you wonder if the experience from Coach Os is really starting to come into play when you see, the jumping at the free kick.
Yeah.
It's I don't really know what to say about it just because it's something you really don't see much from an adult league coming into play with a UPSL Premier Division team. But the first half, Dre, they hung on. I mean, the score was 4-0. But it was a story of this tournament for Rovers. Yes, they're in the final. Yes, they went undefeated. But did we really see the best of them?
Yeah, I was actually impressed with Coach Os because they did fight. Even when they were down, they kept on fighting, even at the end when they were 4 down. And they were still trying to get something out of the match. And that's a good sign for them going forward. They're very inexperienced when it comes to this type of competition, especially, they were up against the defending champions. And so, it was going to be a tall order any way you looked at it, but they put in a shift, and but Rovers was really just that quality just overshone what was needed for the day.
No, absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
What about that last goal?
Well, you see here they play it out wide here, and something that they do really, really well. Rovers really use the width of the field really, really well. You see Luke Sexton driving in on the left, and talk about a game changer. He checks in the game, and the whole entire mental for the team changes as he beats another man inside the 18, puts it across. Jair Lopez on the top of the 6, left foot, bends it in. Just great play. And Dre, I tell you what, Luke Sexton, Rodriguez, Mbomio, Montero, the new guys, Manuel Carrillo, Chris Daron, they're already clicking. They're already clicking, Andre.
That's a lot of firepower.
It is.
And it's funny how you guys mentioned it during the game. They brought a lot of that stuff onto the field late. They started out with some of the more fringe players, but people like Alejandro and Knox coming on. is something is a strategy, I guess, that could be used during the season. But I foresee that for the final, you might see a different setup to
No,
start that game.
I couldn't agree more. I was just going to say that I would suspect to see minus maybe one or two. I would expect to see how they finish that game. They're going to start. Now you have to remember too, in respect to Atlanta Rovers FC, they have Rennie Matthews, the Venezuelan staple, right back for Atlanta Rovers, but they're also missing Felix Nichols. Felix, who scored
Yes,
the unfortunate own goals and one of the goals in the that sent them home in the fall season, and Ryan Paolucci, one of their star center backs, who's actually on trial right now with Chattanooga FC. He went on trial for a couple of sessions, and it just expanded, and he's there longer than he expected. So,
must be impressing.
good for him. Good for him. But again, Felix I talked to, he said he's more than likely going to come back. He'll be with the Rovers this season. Paolucci, who's you're just unsure if he clears with Chattanooga, it's going to be another little thing, another little piece that Ayub is going to have to try and put back together. And we both know if there's any manager in the league that can put the pieces back together, it's Ayub Aloui. So Atlanta Rovers FC, Dre, I'm really, really confident that they're going to be back at the top of the table this year if they stay healthy.
Yeah, that's going to be a key because that was a major factor in the last season. I think that really cost them the league. Those injuries early on.
Yep.
Sure.
And to piggyback off costing the league, they got healthy at the end. But if you go back and watch that final game where they were sent home, Luke didn't look healthy. He didn't look like he was ready. He was in physical game shape. But you watch him this past Sunday, the little cameo that he had.
Yeah, the match fitness is back.
It's back. It's back.
His positioning, it was a sight to see.
And his confidence on the ball, man. It's the finals. The finals going to be nuts. I'll tell you that right now. It was a 1-1 draw in week 3.
What do you think both of the teams need to do in approaching this game to get something out of it? I mean, what do you think they have to do?
I think Club the Strongest, they need to attack. That don't sit back. Don't allow 25 yards in the midfield. I say start your game with Jaja and Carmona, and then put Cross at either the number 6 or the number 10, and just feed. Maybe play a back 5 and tell your wing backs to hold back a little bit, because you know that Rovers are going to attack.
Yes.
The best way for Club the Strongest to win that game is to attack the inexperienced back line of Atlanta Rovers FC.
Yeah, that's going to be key. That's going to be key for Club the Strongest, because if they let that back line get affected early, it could get really ugly fast. But then that goes back to if Club the Strongest goes down early, how will they respond? We know how it went last season, but so far in this regional cup, they've shown a different type of character, and it is a cup final. So hopefully they'll lay it all on the line for this.
Yeah, just like we mentioned before, when they played Rovers week 3, down 1-0, pretty much the entire game, and you send one player into the game, and Mauricio Cross, and it completely changed the aspect. So if they play the way they played the last 20 minutes in week 3 against Rovers, barring maybe a couple of tweaks as far as players. Now, what I'm interested to see is the formation for Rovers. I know we're kind of picking at them a little bit, but I can't explain to you how shocking the amount of space in the midfield was. They cleaned that up. All right, I'm gonna go with my prediction. I'm gonna go Atlanta Rovers FC. They're gonna take the regional cup home. They're gonna repeat, but I don't think it's gonna be a rout. I'm gonna go with 3-2. I'm gonna predict a 3-2 victory for.
Okay, you're gonna stick it out there. Okay.
I'm gonna stick it out there because I think Club the Strongest. They're gonna watch this. They're gonna rewatch the broadcasts. They're gonna be hungry. They're gonna be excited, and I think we'll see a little bit more mentality. But there's just too much firepower on the Rovers side for them to really be stopped.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see unless Rovers just has a really bad day, out of sync or whatever. I can't see them losing this match. But I think Club the Strongest can give them a good enough game to where we could even look at possible extra time. I'm not going to go as far as penalties, but but I think they could keep it close like that. And when you keep it close, anything can happen.
Yep.
So I
And
don't have a
both
score, but I think it will be more along the lines of a 2-1
okay.
type of victory for Rovers. And that's sticking it out there. I know Coach Sandoval is going to look at this and say, "How dare you?" But that's
Now, one thing
hey, surprise me. You know, you never know.
one thing about both teams that a lot of teams in the Georgia Division, Premier Division and Division One lack is depth. But both of these teams have full benches.
Oh yeah,
They got reinforcements to come in whenever they need, and
great
I think
coaching.
that's oh, of course, that's going to play a role. The depth and how the coaches use their benches.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting chess match too. But hopefully, unlike the semifinals, I hope it's more electric, especially starting up early. Let's lay it all out there and let's see what kind of cup final we get. But yeah, so you'll be on there. I believe that we'll have Stephen Johnson with you,
Yep.
the commentary team. So we look forward to that match. It's 3 o'clock at Tower Stadium. And for all the viewers out there, thank you for listening to us here. And we look forward to getting your comments down in the comment section down there, and give us your predictions of what you expect to happen. So any parting shots there, Drew, as we close out?
No parting shots for me. Just make sure you tune in Atlantic Soccer Media Group YouTube channel, 3 o'clock this Sunday. We'll be live at Terra Stadium, like Andre said. It's going to be a barn burner. Can't wait. Club the Strongest taking on Atlanta Rovers FC. We'll see you there.
All right, click like and subscribe. Take it easy. Thanks a lot.
See you guys.